Most people have never seen The Arrival. The ones who have remember one thing immediately: the aliens with the knees that bend the wrong way. Today we're counting down 10 facts about The Arrival. Stick around for number 1, because the sequel killed the hero before the opening credits and nobody warned Charlie Sheen it was coming.
Signal returns. Definitely Skybase. Wolf 336, you are howling. Oh! Ow, ow, ow! Phase 2.
10. Toohey wrote the script specifically for Charlie Sheen. David Toohey didn't write Zane Zeminski and then go looking for an actor. He wrote Zane Zeminski with Charlie Sheen's face already in the parts. The two had worked together on Terminal Velocity in 1994, and Toohey had come away from that experience certain that Sheen had something specific, a coiled, unpredictable energy that would make a paranoid scientist feel genuinely unhinged rather than conventionally heroic. Most studio thrillers of the era would have cast the lead as a composed expert who gradually discovers the truth. Toohey wanted someone who looked like he might already be coming apart at the seams when the story started. Sheen fit that. He wrote the role to Sheen's dimensions and offered it to him directly. Sheen accepted without hesitation. The collaboration resulted in a performance that critics either found compelling or completely over the top, sometimes in the same review. Toohey got exactly what he wrote for. Whether that was the right call was a different argument. 9. The working title was Shockwave. The film that became The Arrival was called Shockwave for the entirety of its development and production. Because the title change happened before release, a late decision that the marketing department felt better captured the film's tone and concept than a word associated primarily with explosions. Shockwave had been the working title through the script stage, through principal photography in Mexico and California, and through post-production at Pacific Data Images. For everyone who made the film, it was Shockwave first. The Arrival arrived only at the end. It was a title change that ultimately didn't matter much either way. The film opened on May 31st, 1996, and was outshouted by summer competition, regardless of what it was called. The title on the marquee was new. The film underneath it was exactly what it had always been, just wearing different lettering. 8. Get it was shot at real SATI facilities. David Toohey had done his homework on radio astronomy before writing a single page of script. He immersed himself in the actual mechanics of SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, studying how real observatories operated, what the listening equipment looked like, and how astronomers behaved during a routine monitoring shift. That research produced a production decision most filmmakers wouldn't bother with. The observatory scenes were filmed at the Owens Valley Radio Observatory in California, a genuine working facility rather than a studio set. Additional scenes were filmed in Bishop, California. The combination of real locations and Toohey's technical knowledge gave the film's early sequences a procedural credibility that separated it from most alien invasion films of the decade. Carl Sagan's book Cosmos appears on a shelf in Zane's bedroom, a quiet background detail that Toohey planted deliberately. He wasn't making the kind of film where props were chosen at random. 7. The backward knees were a design problem, not a gimmick. The most memorable visual element of The Arrival, the moment an alien reverses its knees and leaps onto a rooftop, was not conceived as a shock effect. David Toohey faced a specific design problem: how to make creatures that could pass as human in disguise while still feeling fundamentally wrong when the mask came off. Prosthetics would have created something that looked monstrous without a suit, but humanoid when wearing one. CG allowed the creature to look completely human from the outside and completely alien the moment it moved. The backward knee was the solution, a single anatomical inversion that didn't require full creature transformation to communicate wrongness. The skull flap that opens to vent heat from the alien brain was a companion detail, disturbing, specific, and grounded in a logic the film never fully explains. Toohey confirmed both details came from the need to make the creatures feel like they belonged to a biology that wasn't ours, not from a desire to generate a reaction in the audience. 6. The film predicted the modern climate crisis angle. 20 years early, the central premise of The Arrival is not simply that aliens have arrived, it is that they have been here for some time, quietly accelerating the greenhouse effect. Operating power stations around the world that emit massive amounts of greenhouse gases, deliberately warming the planet to make it more hospitable to their biology before the human population notices what's happening. In 1996, that premise was treated as science fiction shorthand for a corporate conspiracy thriller. By the 2000s, it had become a framework that nonfiction writers about climate change were using almost literally the idea of an invisible distributed system accelerating atmospheric damage, while institutions responsible for oversight looked the other way. Too High wasn't making a documentary, but the structure of the alien plot maps onto the structure of real-world climate inaction with a precision that grows more uncomfortable the further from 1996 you watch it. The aliens were ahead of the science caught up. 5. It was David Twohy's directorial debut. The Arrival was the first film David Twohy ever directed. Everything that came before it on his resume was as a screenwriter. He had written The Fugitive, Terminal Velocity, and Waterworld, among others. Those were not small credits. The Fugitive was a massive hit and an Oscar-nominated screenplay, but writing a film and directing one are different jobs, and Twohy had never stood behind a camera as the director of a theatrical feature before stepping onto a set in Mexico in 1995. His debut involved original Aliens, a working radio observatory, a multi-story flood set, full CGI creature effects, and a $25 million budget makes the choice either audacious or reckless, depending on how you look at it. The film itself suggests audacious. Twohy's control over tone and pacing is consistent and deliberate in ways that debut directors frequently aren't. He went on to direct Pitch Black and the Riddick franchise. The Arrival was where he learned whether he could actually do it. He could, the signal in the film echoes the real wow signal, the alien radio signal that Zane detects at the opening of the film, a 45-second non-random transmission from the Starwolf 336 14 light-years away was written as a direct echo of a real astronomical event. On August 15, 1977, astronomer Jerry Eman, working at Ohio State University's Big Ear Radio Telescope, detected a strong narrowband signal from deep space. He circled it on the data printout and wrote "wow" in the margin. The signal lasted 72 seconds and was never detected again. No definitive explanation for its origin has ever been established. Too High knew the wow signal's history and built Zane's discovery around the same essential mystery. A transmission too structured to be natural noise, too brief to be verified, and too threatening to the people in power to be allowed to stand. The film's fictional signal was 45 seconds. The real one was 72. Both remained unexplained. Only one of them got a movie. 3. The Day of the Dead chase was shot during an actual festival. The sequence in which Zane pursues a suspect through a crowded Mexican street celebration was filmed during an actual Day of the Dead festival. Rather than a fabricated one, the production chose to work around a real cultural event rather than recreate it on a controlled set, using the genuine crowds, costumes, and atmosphere to generate visual energy that no amount of extras or production design could fully replicate. Cinematographer Hiro Narita, who had previously shot Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, and The Rocketeer, brought a documentary quality to the sequence that let the real event do much of the work. The cultural texture of the Mexican locations throughout the film, Taxco and Guerrero, Tepoztlan and Morelos, gave The Arrival a visual identity distinct from the studio-bound look of most American sci-fi of the era. Twohy didn't want the film to feel like it was set in a Hollywood idea of Mexico. He went to Mexico and shot there. 2. The sequel killed Zane before the opening credits. The Arrival earned enough on home video to justify a sequel. Arrival 2, also known as The Second Arrival, was released direct-to-video in 1998, produced without David Twohy's involvement and written by a different screenwriter entirely. The first creative decision the new team made was to eliminate Zane Zeminski. Charlie Sheen did not return. The sequel's opening establishes that Zane is already dead before the story begins, killed off-screen between the events of the first film and the second, with no ceremony and no explanation worthy of the character. The hero that Twohy had written specifically for Sheen, the character around whom an entire alien conspiracy had been constructed, was disposed of in a line of expository dialogue. A new protagonist takes over, and the film proceeds as though the first one barely happened. Too High later noted his complete lack of involvement in the sequel. The film he had built from scratch was continued by people who began by erasing its lead character. Some sequels honor what came before. This one opened with a burial. 1. The Film Shares, a name with a classic that has nothing to do with it. In 2016, Denis Villeneuve released a science fiction film called Arrival, a cerebral, critically acclaimed meditation on language, time, and First Contact that earned 8 Academy Award nominations and $203 million at the global box office. It has no connection to the 1996 film Beyond Aliens, a similar title, and that both deal with extraterrestrial visitors. The confusion between the two films has followed Too High's version ever since. People searching for the 1996 film find the 2016 one. People recommending the 2016 film occasionally get told. The recommending party had already seen it, the one with Charlie Sheen and the backwards knees. A film that spent 2 decades quietly accumulating a cult following suddenly had to share its identity with one of the most respected science fiction films of the 2000s. 20 years of cult status, erased by a title collision with Amy Adams. David Twohy wrote the role for Charlie Sheen. Denis Villeneuve got the Oscar nominations. See, that is the kind of ending no screenwriter writes on purpose. Alternate ending. The finished cut ends with Zayn successfully broadcasting the recording of alien activity to a news satellite, the truth going out into the world over the aliens' objections with the antenna collapsing behind him as he escapes. It is a qualified victory. The information is out, but the audience never sees the world respond to it. Critics noted at the time that Zayn's broadcast, containing what amounts to grainy footage of alien infrastructure and a coerced confession, would likely be received by the general public as the ranting of a conspiracy theorist rather than a bombshell revelation. Too High acknowledged this ambiguity in interviews. An earlier version of the ending was reportedly darker. Zayn's transmission reaches fewer people. The cover-up holds longer. And the film closes on a more pessimistic note about humanity's capacity to accept what it doesn't want to hear. The released ending was considered more commercially viable. The darker version never made it to theaters. Whether the aliens won in that version is a question Too High left unanswered. A film that predicted the climate crisis, built aliens from scratch, and got buried by the biggest summer blockbuster of the decade. Which fact hit hardest? Drop it in the comments. Subscribe for more deep dives into the sci-fi films that deserved a bigger audience than they ever got. Until next time.